and welcome to our second week of my 59071 Intro to Psych online class. It's our first time meeting actually live together here on Twitch, though I did record it here last week. But can everyone hear me and see me okay? This is Twitch. If you've never been on here before, your best way to communicate with me is through using the chat. If someone could give me a yes or a thumbs up that you can hear and see me, that would be fantastic, just so I don't keep talking and assume it's all working. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for letting me know. That's wonderful. So last week I did a recording and it was kind of lengthy because it's week number 1. Now that we're into week number 2 and we're kind of settling in, you can expect maybe 15 to 20 minutes or so, and it'll be nice and short and sweet from here. And this gives you a wonderful opportunity to interact with me live, which is really nice as well. So if you have questions at any point during this, you can always put them into the chat. I'll be monitoring it on my phone, so it's a wonderful way to kind of interact with me live in that way. So other than that, let's head over to our Canvas shell where we are here. We're in week number 2. I cannot believe that it is July. I almost said January. Can you believe it's January? I can't believe that we're already in July, that it's July 2nd. Feels like it's going so quickly. The summer, this class, all of it. So what I want to do really quickly is give you just a tiny bit of feedback from last week, and then we'll focus on week number 2. I'll go over what you have due. I'll give you the extra credit for this week and show you how to answer it. And then at the end, I'll always leave a little bit of time in case you have any questions. But if you have questions at any point during this, feel free to put them in the chat. So really quickly going backward, I did grade everything from week number 1. And typically what you'll see is that on Mondays, I'll grade all of the previous week's materials. I know it's a little frustrating that the scores from the ebook site don't come over to Canvas automatically. Frustrating for me as well. But everything from week number 1 has now been graded. You can always see your scores. I did post a little video on how to find your feedback and grades if you are having a hard time finding it. But last week, discussions 1 and 2 and exam number 1 were the things that you turned in. And I saw a lot of really wonderful things. On the first 2 discussions, a lot of you got full points or very close to. If you found that you lost a point or 2 on the discussions last week, try and give me a little bit more this week. That's probably the number one reason people lose points, is just not quite elaborating enough. Really show off your knowledge and comprehension. Always okay to give me too much, but you don't want to not give me enough. So if you missed a point or 2, try and give me a little bit more this week. I tried to give you some feedback on both of those. As far as the exam goes, I wrote this down, so I would have it, the average amount of time was 59 minutes. The average score was an 88%. High of 75 and low of 43. So what I saw was most people right around an hour to complete the exam, which tells me you were prepared and studied. High scores of 100%. There were several of you who got 100% and a lot of A's. So what I would like to encourage you to do is use the exams and discussions from last week as a learning opportunity. If you like how you did on all of those things, keep doing the same thing this week, right? As we do 2 more discussions and another exam. If you wish you had done a little bit better, this is a wonderful time to kind of change things up. You could give me a little bit more for the discussions if you lost points there. You could study for the exam if you didn't study for the last one, or if you didn't do the study guide, consider doing it this week. Hopefully you kind of have an idea of where you can improve. And I do have a little assessment this week to kind of help you reflect on that. But for the most part, a lot of you, really wonderful job last week. There are 84 of you in this class and a lot of A's. So that made me very happy to see. With that, we will, and several of you also did the extra credit, which I think is fantastic. Those points from these Twitch extra credit opportunities just get added to your overall grade. It'll make up for a few missed points on a discussion or an exam. I think it's a really wonderful way to give yourself a buffer. So again, a lot of good things. So with that, we'll move on to week number 2. Very typical in the sense that we have 4 chapters, 2 discussions, and an exam. You also have a little self-assessment that I'll talk about. And of course, the extra credit for joining me live here and answering that question I'll give you later, or watching this later as a recording and being subscribed. So this week, our 4 chapters are chapter 5 on consciousness, chapter 6 on learning, 7 on memory, and 8 on cognition. kind of some very core topics to psychology. So as always, what you'll want to do for each chapter is three things. Read the chapter in the ebook, read through the lecture, watch any videos I post, click on any links that are in there, and finally, number three, watch the lecture video where I'm lecturing to some PowerPoint slides. Hopefully, if you do those three things for each chapter, it'll make the materials really comprehensible and understandable. It'll also really help you with the exam and the discussions and so on. So just make sure you're doing those three things for each chapter, and that should be really helpful for you. The two discussions that you have this week, just like last week, you'll have two every single week. Discussion number 3, when you open it, you'll see at the top you have my instructions, like always, right, where I have a little video here, some reminders to really be comprehensive. Think about these as like mini papers, not to forget the peer response, all that kind of stuff. This one is about dreams. Dreams are something that are really, really fascinating to me. I love the topic of dreams and consciousness. So for this one, I did make a video that highlights some tips on remembering your dreams. So if you're someone who tends to struggle with that, that video might be really helpful for you. So make sure you watch my video. Make sure you read this little dream article right here, where it's going to go over some very common dream theories, which are also discussed a bit in the textbook. Once you've done those two things, you're going to discuss a dream that you had recently, or it can be a past one if you remember it pretty well. And then make sure it's something you don't mind sharing, that it's relatively appropriate, that it's not something that's uncomfortable to share. You're going to briefly describe your dream and then explain it from a minimum of 2 different dream theories from the article and the textbook. I want you to really describe the theory, right? So explain to me what the theory is, connect it directly to your dream, make sure that you're really elaborating on that. That's the number one reason people lose points here, is they don't describe the dream theory. They just kind of list it and then move forward. So make sure you kind of define and describe that and then connect it to your dream. How could you explain your dream from that perspective? And then finally, why do you personally think we dream? Do you have any theories or thoughts? What do you tend to believe? I feel like a lot of my dreams are meaningful. I've definitely had those ones where it's like an extension of waking life. I fall asleep watching Top Chef and all of a sudden I'm competing on a food, show in my dreams. But, why do you think we dream? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And then when you're ready, you'll hit reply, and you can see some of you have already done that. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points of peer response credit. So that's discussion 3. You have one more for this week, discussion number 4. Let's take a look at that. Discussion number 4, when you open it, you'll see the same thing. Write my instructions, followed by a video, followed by the prompt. And with this one, the prompt is related to memory, right? And if you were taking this with me in person, this would be a challenge that I gave you in person. But luckily for you, you don't actually have to do it. But you're going to watch my video, and I'm going to give you a 28-digit sequence of letters and numbers. If you needed to remember this in order and you had no way of writing it down, you had to rely solely on your mind and your memory, how would you hold on to this for a matter of seconds and for a matter of days? And as I noted right here, these should be different methods. So you're going to describe to me, if you had to hold on to it for a matter of seconds, what would be your best strategy? How would you hold on to it? What would you do? And be specific, right? If you say I'm going to chunk it, how would you divide it up? If you say you're going to repeat it, like what would that look like, right? Really elaborate and describe. And then what if you were to hold on to it, try and hold on to it for several days or like long term? If you were to maybe make it into a story or a sentence or a song, what would that look like? Describe it to me. What is that called? Kind of describing and connecting all of that to me, showing that you understand and know how to apply those materials. The next question that you have here, describe in detail 2 ways that you could use the information on memory here to help you in studying for an exam. And then finally, do you have any personal tips for memory that you would like to share? What are some strategies that you use in your personal life to help you retain important information? And when you're ready, you'll hit reply, as several of you have already done. And then don't forget to also reply to a classmate to get those 2 points. Again, think about these as like little mini papers or mini essays. Better to give me too much. You don't want to be missing points for it being too short. Okay, so those are the two discussions for this week. And then you have an exam like usual. So exam number 2. And remember that everything from this week is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So everything by Sunday night. And just a quick reminder, if something comes up, if you have an emergency, if you reach out to me before the deadline, more than willing to work with you. If you reach out to me after the deadline, like regardless of the circumstance, I'm going to feel bad for you, but it will be too late. So just keep that in mind. That's my one hard rule. Please make sure you reach out before the deadline if you need an extension or if something comes up. Okay, so excuse me. For exam number 2, here's the study guide. So if you click on study guide for exam 2, you can see this one's on chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. None of the exams in here are cumulative, so this one's just on everything from this week. If it's on here, it will be on the test. If it's not on here, you can let it go. So make sure you study and know everything that's on the study guide. Again, as I mentioned last week, if it were me, and I've always been one of those like meticulous students, but if it were me, I would write or type all of this up. I'd have it next to me. That way, let's say I get to rote rehearsal and I don't remember what that is, right? I can just check my study guide and I'm not looking through the book and the lecture, using up that valuable test time. So study like you would for a normal test. Maybe consider having it in front of you if that's something that would be helpful. If you wish you had done better last week, try that this week. I guarantee that it'll be helpful for you. Remember that the instructions for the exam are the same for each one. So the exam is on the ebook site under the little exams link up at the top. And with each exam, as it says on here, let it load here, you have 75 minutes. You get one attempt, so make sure you're ready and organized before you begin. Make sure you have good internet. You have 75 minutes to spare. You have a quiet place to take the exam. Do everything you can to set yourself up for success. I would also really recommend not waiting till Sunday night. You never want to wait till the last minute. Seems like the universe always gets back at you when you do that. So just make sure you set yourself up for success. Save all your answers. You will get a score instantly when you submit it, but remember that it doesn't come over to Canvas automatically. So I will be grading those on Monday next week, and then you'll see your score. So the big things for this week are those 2 discussions and the exam. You also have a little self-assessment. Now this is worth 5 points, and you'll take like 2 of these, I believe it is, during our class. Please be honest with this. There's no time limit. It's just me checking in with you to kind of see how you feel about your grade after 1/4 of the class. So it's 5 questions, 5 points, answer honestly, just a chance for you to think about your own thinking, promoting growth and learning as you go through the class. So that, in addition to your other class materials, again, remember that everything from this week is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. I have a couple of reminders for you and the extra credit question. But before I do that, are there any questions at all for me while I'm getting those reminders together? Does anyone have any questions or anything that you are confused about? I'd be more than happy to show you. You can put it in the chat. And while I'm waiting for you, let me post this one. I typed this up earlier. Please don't forget to take a moment to check your subscription status. Several of you figured it out, but out of the 85 in this class, there's only 13 that are subscribed. So it saves me a lot of time not having to look up your name. It also makes it easier for you in the sense that you don't get all of those ads and obnoxious stuff. And I think the best option here, if you can't join me live, you can watch these later as a recording, as long as you are subscribed and still get those points. So if you could take a little bit, it's totally free. It just takes a little bit of time to do all the little steps. And make sure you have the football cake next to your name, like Giovanni and Chloe. You don't have the cake, you just have the crown, which means there's one more step to do. So just make sure you do that if you can. I really appreciate those of you figuring it out. The other reminder I have for you, if you're looking ahead, I'll put this in the chat as well. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, July 9th at 8 o'clock p.m. Okay, sticking with the same date and time, next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And as I mentioned, there'll be like 15 to 20 minutes, kind of short and sweet. But you do get those points for joining me and answering the question I'll give you in a moment, or watching it later as a recording, as long as you are subscribed. So let me put the extra credit question in the chat. and then I will show you where to find it and how to answer it. So this is the week number two Twitch extra credit question. Okay, so there's a little clip called the Attack of the Quack, and it's on the last page of the learning lecture. I'll show you in just a moment, but you're going to identify the US, UR, CS, and CR in the clip. You're not defining them, you're just identifying them. So what is the US, UR, CS, and CR in the Attack of the Quack clip? So on Canvas, this is in lecture on learning. So the learning lecture right here on the very last page. So on the last page, there's a little 1.5 minute video. So right where it says application. And it's a little boy brushing his teeth. And he's going to be the victim of a prank on classical conditioning. So you'll watch this little 1.5 minute clip, and then you will identify the US, UR, CS, and CR. And that is all you need to do for the extra credit. Since we are in week number 2, you will click on optional Twitch extra credit number 2 right here. And then up at the top, click on start assignment. And this is where you can then type your response in the box. And when you're done, hit submit. You'll get your confetti burst and pandas. Why not? Confettis and pandas. But this is worth up to 5 points of extra credit. So either joining me live right now, or you're subscribed and watch this later as a recording. But that will allow you to get those points when you answer the question on here. So just make sure everything from this week is turned in by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. The 2 discussions, the exam, the self-assessment, and if you want the extra credit, I will post a recording of this in a little bit. It takes a little bit for it to upload and download and post it on YouTube so you can watch it anywhere. Are there any questions at all for me at this point? There's a decent amount of you in here with me, but anyone have any questions before we call it an evening? I see my cats in here, but they're all keeping a distance. They know better than to get close to me, right? So anyway, thank you so much for all of you joining me or even watching this later. I appreciate it. Happy to keep doing it if it's helpful and to give you that extra credit opportunity. I will hang out for a couple of minutes if you do have any questions. Otherwise, like I said, like about 20 minutes, kind of short and sweet. If you don't have any questions, you're welcome to go. We're kind of done at this point. Otherwise, I'm going to put this here in the chat. Thank you. If you celebrate the 4th of July, happy 4th of July. If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week either way, right? But have a great week. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself, but I will hang out for a few minutes. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I would be more than happy to answer them. Thank you as well. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful night. It's such a nice night tonight. It's not too hot. It's pretty comfortable outside. And I am still here. Like I said, if any of you do have any questions, more than happy to answer them for you. Just post them in the chat.